You ever retire thinking you've finally earned peace, only to wake up in a neighborhood war zone led by a woman with a clipboard in a god complex? Because that's what happened to me. One day, I'm sipping coffee on my porch, soaking in the quiet hum of suburban life, and the next I'm watching my biometric fence panel blink red because someone poked it with a nail, not just any someone, but a woman named Deborah Lindley, the newly self-elected president of our HOA, who believed my address plaque was too reflective. No kidding. Now let me be clear, when I bought this property, I wasn't planning to turn it into a high-security defense prototype. I was done with that world. 30 years in the defense tech sector will do that to you. I spent my whole life building systems designed to respond faster than thought and smarter than intention. But when I retired, the Department of Defense had one last ask to test their civilian integrated smart home security project. All I had to do was live a normal life, keep the system running quietly, log any interactions, and under no circumstances let it be tampered with. Simple. Until Deborah showed up with her dog and her delusions. She wasn't president when I moved in. Back then she was just the woman who waved too long at everyone and judged your lawn with her eyes. But 6 months after I unpacked my last box, she ran unopposed for the HOA board and started what the neighbors later called the Clean Property Crusade. She fined one guy for wind chimes, issued citations for sidewalk chalk, and threatened to report a veteran because his mailbox leaned to the left. Me? She hated my front gate, said it looked like it belonged at Langley. She wasn't entirely wrong. My gate had a facial scanner and a sign that read, "Defense Monitoring Active. Unauthorized access triggers federal alert." Not a bluff. Not a warning. Just a fact. She told me it was fear-mongering. I told her not to touch it. Naturally, she touched it. It started with a fingerprint rejection. I was brushing my teeth when the system pinged someone had tried to override the perimeter scanner. I checked the feed. There she was, squinting at the panel, barking into her phone, her Pomeranian dangling like a purse accessory. She smacked the glass with her HOA clipboard and yelled something about citizen rights. I sighed, logged the event, and figured that was that. But Deborah didn't back off. The next night, she came back with a flashlight and gardening gloves. She prodded at the panel like she was trying to coax it open, held the override button too long, and tripped the silent lock mode. That triggered a level 3 alert, the kind that tells the regional Pentagon server you might have a domestic interference issue. Not a full breach. Yet. I didn't have to wait long. By morning, I noticed 3 black SUVs parked on the next street, unmarked but unmistakably federal. Deborah, of course, strutted around claiming she'd caught me red-handed operating a surveillance lab. She waved her arms at the vehicles and shouted, "See? Told you he's being watched." What she didn't know was that they weren't watching me. They were watching her. My old colleague, Major Preston, called that evening. His message was short. "Confirm identity of breach party." I wrote back, not a threat, just a very aggressive HOA president. He responded, "Keep system armed." She's now a recurring trigger. The final straw came 3 days later. She showed up in what I can only describe as tactical cosplay fluorescent vest, sunglasses, HOA badge she probably made at Staples, and a GoPro mounted to her head. She marched to my gate, waved a voltage tester around like it was a Geiger counter, and muttered into her mic, "Commencing neighborhood scan." I was upstairs, watching from the office window with a bowl of popcorn. When she touched the panel again, the system detected an unauthorized scan and quietly escalated to Phase 2. Phase 2 Minidrone. A real one. It rerouted midair and was on its way. ETA, 29 minutes. Deborah kept barking at the panel, Muffin yipping in the background like he was trying to file a complaint. I didn't stop her. The system had shifted into observation mode, no physical deterrence yet, just tracking. The red light blinked twice and went dark. That was its way of saying, "You're officially part of a federal incident log." That night, I got a call. Not a phone call, a blinking light on my desk. I pressed my thumb to the panel. The screen lit up. General Marshall, stone-faced. Same woman. Same woman. She brought tools. She brought bolt cutters. He nodded slowly. "We can't ignore this. Protocol requires civilian mitigation. Don't engage. If she returns, the system will respond." And respond it did. The following night, the power went out across 3 streets. A transformer blew during a summer storm. Most people lit candles. I monitored my backup systems, which kicked in automatically. Then, movement southern fence line. One heat signature. Not an animal. Deborah. She was in black sweats, crouched low, lugging a tote filled with kitchen tools and what looked like a crowbar. She muttered into a walkie-talkie, "Agent D to base. Weak point located. Proceed with blackout plan." No response, obviously, because there was no base. Just her and her delusions. When she struck the panel with the crowbar, the system released a low-voltage deterrent, not a taser, more like a smart slap on the wrist. She screamed, dropped the tool, stumbled backward into her own bushes. The footage was gold. But more importantly, it was evidence. I compiled everything, every clip, every log, every muttered conspiracy, and sent it to the liaison. By morning, agents knocked on her door. Not to arrest, not to shame, just to assess. She answered in a bathrobe, still trying to find them for illegal parking. They handed her a formal warning. She had tampered with protected infrastructure, and further incidents could be prosecuted under federal code. Did she take the hint? Of course not. The next week, she launched a blog, Eyes on the Enemy. She claimed squirrels were government agents and my mailbox emitted radiation. She said Muffin had neurological damage from electromagnetic waves. The blog went viral. Memes followed. One clip of her live streaming from behind a bush, whispering about satellites and coded sprinklers, got millions of views. Then, the kicker. She returned. At 9:03 a.m., she hopped my back fence using a neighbor's recycling bin, dressed in a helmet, gloves, holding a fake inspection clipboard, and a body cam. She crept into the garage which, unfortunately for her, was part of the thermal sensor array. Once inside, the door sealed automatically. She screamed, pounded on the walls, yelled, "I know my rights and let me out." The system scanned her vitals, logged her speech for distress signals, and pinged Central Command. Within 10 minutes, a team retrieved her. No force, no sirens, just quiet competence. She emerged from the garage, shaken but unharmed, and somehow, still defiant. She accused me of kidnapping, claimed I was harboring alien tech, and said her detainment was part of a wider plot to silence suburban truth-tellers. That week, she was summoned to a closed congressional hearing. Apparently, the incident had raised real concerns about civilian escalation. She testified with charts, hand-drawn diagrams, even a sketch of Muffin in a hazmat suit. Witnesses say lawmakers tried not to laugh. The aftermath? Deborah was removed from the HOA by unanimous vote. A restraining order followed. And then, something unexpected. A plaque. A gold-trimmed, government-issued plaque arrived at my door, designated National Defense Infrastructure Tier 1 prototype. Along with it, a sign for my lawn, professionally mounted, visible from the street. Deborah saw it within the hour. She didn't shout, didn't storm over, just stood at her mailbox, staring. She moved out 3 months later. No speech, no rant, no farewell, just an empty porch, and peace. And me? I stayed, kept the system running, trimmed the hedges, occasionally waved to new neighbors who never asked about the sign. Sometimes I wonder if Deborah truly believed all the things she said, or if maybe she just needed something to fight, to lead, to control. But I've learned something in all this. When someone comes at you with chaos, you don't need to shout them down. You don't need to fight crazy with crazy. Sometimes, all you need is patience, and a system that reports directly to the Pentagon. If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare or a neighbor with too much time on their hands, drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, we'll all feel a little less alone in the madness. Thanks for listening and stay safe out there.